All right, guys. This week we've got Eric Grothe, a senior, joining us here at Thinking Man Business Labs. Welcome. Thank you very much for having you as a guest today.
Mate, my pleasure, and thank you, and good to see you, mate.
Yeah, it's been a while. Just so everybody knows, we've been mates for how long has it been now?
Well, you helped Eric and I set up and start our podcast, and that's a few years back.
Yeah.
So
yeah. So for anybody that hasn't heard it, it's the Undergrowth podcast. How's it? You guys still doing it? What's the story there?
No, we've been pretty lazy actually. We've got to get our fingers out and have another crack at it. But obviously the COVID virus thing, and but now restrictions are lifted. We could get into it and do it properly. So we might do that. You've sparked it on by this podcast.
That's awesome. That's good. So have you been keeping? How's the whole process? I know you just had a business just before everything sort of went down. So how's everything been going for you?
Yeah, pretty quiet, mate. Our business was hit pretty hard. Eric and I bought a marquee hire business, a party hire, sort of backyard party hire business in October before Christmas last year, and it was going really well. We bought it off this fellow, and we got it going pretty good. And then we were starting to fill the year up, and then obviously everyone's felt the COVID virus thing, so it's been very quiet. People couldn't get together and have backyard parties and isolation, so that really affected us. But we're waiting for the restrictions to lift. Maybe level 2 or level 3 we can start sort of going again. Yeah.
And I think that's what will happen with a lot of businesses. Once it comes back, it's going to come back hard. There's almost going to be an undersupply of providers. So you guys will do really well once it opens up, because there's going to be weddings. People are going to want to be outdoors. People are going to realise that, it's important to just do their thing in life now. I think everything's going to change after this. What are your thoughts on that?
I think so. Yeah, you're right. People just want to bust out and get amongst it, and hopefully we don't do that too quickly, and they do it within the restrictions, the rules and regulations. And if we do that properly, then that'll continue, and then we'll go back to normal. And as you said, if we get the lead up to Christmas, the August, September, October, November, and that the business will go good. Yeah, we'll be back into it.
No, it'll go really well. So, if we just go back and obviously touch on some of your NRL stuff or ARL stuff or whatever, New South Wales RL stuff, whatever it was called back when you were doing it.
A few changes,
yeah. And as you know, I'm not like a footy person, so I can't give to any of the listeners any real technical knowledge about football at all, or rugby league at all. So just give us a chat of what it was sort of like back then, and what footy was like back then, and what you see the real differences are between now and then.
Look, when I look back at it now, it's quite surreal. When it was happening at the time, you sort of just took everything in your stride. But it was the rugby league thing was just a part of me. I grew up in Mount Pritchard, which is near Liverpool, west of Sydney, and it was a rugby league area. I mean, it was an area for all sports, soccer, whatever. But I was involved with soccer for a couple of years when I was 8 and 9, and then I jumped over to league. Someone asked me if I wanted to play league, and I ended up going into a team with Steve Ella, who was the centre and winger for Parramatta. So we sort of went through it all the way through it together. So
awesome.
I mean, the early days, the 80s, the game was starting to get cleaned up a little bit, because it was getting beamed into the homes of people, and they needed to clean it up a bit. The 60s and 70s were very brutal.
Yeah,
it's
right.
a brutal game.
Yeah.
The early 80s, it was still brutal, but it was getting cleaned up, and by the time of the 90s and 2000s, and now it's cleaned right up. I mean, the TV, it gets all beamed in for people to look at it, and now there's 14, 15 cameras that hang around a football field, and they're just you can see everything and anything. So it's had to be really sterile. And
so what's the stuff that you used to get away with that you probably couldn't get away with these days on the field?
Well, probably more off the field.
Probably more off the field, right?
Yeah, the cameras and the
social media,
your phones and all that sort of stuff, and social media. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Everyone's just you can't do anything wrong. You can't fart and without people knowing about it. So
yeah, that's right.
yeah, no, it's been a big change, and all that. Social media has been such a big thing for that side of things.
And I think sometimes, as much as people make mistakes, and I'm not here to defend anybody or anything like that, but we've all grown up, we've all been kids, we've all been 18 and 21 and 22 and 23. So to grow up in the limelight with all the social media and all the pressures and all that sort of stuff, and people think just because you get this wage, you automatically get the headspace that allows you to be able to comprehend what you're actually doing and what you actually got. But you haven't evolved at that point, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I always remember what Wayne Bennett said about role models. The league, the NRL, expects anyone that plays first grade to be a role model. Now, you could be 18, 19, 20, but you aren't a real adult, and you haven't sort of been through life in that sense, where you become a bit street smart and all that sort of stuff. And he said the role model doesn't begin really when you mature, when you're 28, 29, 30 to that point. And so there's a lot of pressure on the kids that have never been in any of these sort of situations, where all of a sudden they have to be a role model, and they have to lead the way in that sense. But they're not equipped for that sort of stuff. People don't understand that. There's some people that, depending on the human you are and your DNA, you can be mature beyond your years, but most of them aren't, and they need that streetwiseness, and they need to go through that to get it. Those years, Yeah,
and it's one of those tough things. Like for someone like me, I can go through my process and nobody notices, but because you're in the limelight and you're on television and all that sort of stuff, and like you said, it was a bit different for you. There wasn't as many cameras and as much social media around when you were growing up, so you could pretty much grow up normally. But I guess you guys had it quite different. So you would have had a full-time job, I'm assuming, at the same time as you were playing footy.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, most of us. Yeah, I had a sales rep job. I was a sales rep. I couldn't sell anything if I tried. But, I got paid to do it, and depending on the product, obviously it sold itself. But yeah, we all had jobs, and we'd get to training by 4:30. We'd start training at 5:30, 6 o'clock or whatever. But we'd get there a little bit earlier, and just get ready for that sort of stuff. And we'd train Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And if we're playing on a Sunday, we'd train on a Saturday morning. Yeah. So it'd be 3 or 4 days a week training, but only for a couple of hours. Only 2 or 3 hours at the most. And
right.
And these days, obviously, it's a full-time gig where it's all you're thinking about every day and every minute of the day. Yeah.
And what's your involvement now? Do you get much involved with the footy much at all, or do you contribute to any type of associations or anything like that? Not really.
No, I just watch it. When Eric was, I was invested in watching it really, and got right into it when Eric played.
Did he play? Did he? Eric played.
Yeah, he had a bit of a run around the park. Yeah. If you could wake him up.
If you could wake him up, yeah.
Well, it was another version of me. I was pretty much the same too. So.
Oh, really?
I was a lazy thing, and I had to be pushed a little bit and all that sort of stuff. And
did you? That's surprising.
Yeah, and the game.
You're so self-motivated. When I know you, like today, you're pretty self.
Changed. Yeah, I've changed a bit. I've had to change, I suppose. Yeah. So, but Eric, when he played there, the game was becoming semi-professional, and he had to buck up and make sure he did everything right. But there was a different game then too, as it is now. So it was a bit. He loved his training, didn't he, Eric? Actually, he was a much better trainer than me.
What?
Yeah, I didn't have the. I mean, he had the same sort of motor that I had. That the motor would run out of petrol pretty quickly. We were sprinters. We had the quick fibers in our muscles, I suppose, and we just liked to sprint, but we didn't like any long distance stuff. So
So people that don't know that I'm giving Eric a bit of shit now, but I know Eric obviously quite well and known him for a long time. So hopefully he doesn't get too offended at us talking about him like this. No, but this is not anything wouldn't say to his face anyway. So
yeah, that's right. Actually, when Eric played, his work rate was 50 times more my work rate. I mean, the game had changed, and the wingers had to become such an important part of that, hitting it up and taking it off your line, all the big tough runs that he used to do. But he used to make between 20 and 30 hit-ups a game, and it was like an extra forward, and his work rate was, I mean, I'd be happy if I made 3 or 4 hit-ups or runs a game. So that, with the game changing, it was so different. But his work rate and his being an athlete that he was twice what I was.
Yeah, natural. So when you look back at things like, obviously there's that try that keeps on getting replayed all the time, every time there's a grand final and stuff like that. And how does it work for you guys from a historical perspective? Do you guys have access to that footage? Is that something that you can use for your own personal stuff or anything like that? Do you get any type of I don't know, royalties or anything like that for that sort of stuff in NRL, or how does it?
Yeah, no, that's just something we can get off YouTube, unless I mean, my father had a lot of tapes of my games, and he ended up making a bit of a tape collage of the tries and stuff like that by videoing on Channel 7 or Channel 9, whatever it was, Channel 10.
Yeah.
So, but these, there is archives of footage of. I've got a DVD where it's been edited and cut professionally and stuff like that. So, but if we want to see anything about ourselves, generally we get on YouTube, because everything's on YouTube. So, right. There's no
agreement with the NRL. There's no sort of.
No, not at all. That's when the Super League came in, or one of the ideas Super League had was that we would get paid for any footage in the future that would get used. We'd have to be asked.
It's a great idea.
For any, so that was when the Super League came in. They wanted to look after the player a lot more. Or the ex-players, anyone that had played the game before as well. So.
Sure. Yeah, wow. That would have been a great idea if it was implemented, wouldn't it, for the players, just for their longevity?
That was their idea, and it was pushing the player more so, and it didn't get off. So it lasted for a couple of years, I think, at the most, and it's back to normal now.
Yeah. Okay. So what have you been doing to keep yourself sane during this period? You've been exercising, drinking beers. What's been the story?
Yeah, a little bit of both. Yeah, just trying to exercise, not drinking too much. You have a couple of beers here and there at the end of the week on a Friday, but can't go to the pub obviously. But doing a little bit of training. Just I do 3 or 4 sessions a week they last for about half an hour, 40 minutes. Just basic light weights and just getting the heart pumping and the blood pumping through the system. And
awesome.
Generally that. But I've got a band, and we've lost all our work with the band, obviously, and waiting for stage 3 to come back in when pubs and clubs open again. We can start getting gigs and stuff like that. So that's been very disappointing, missing out on all that sort of stuff. We had a lot of gigs booked and a lot of travelling to do and all that sort of stuff. So looking forward to getting back into that, and that's been one of the hardest things in this virus situation is to not be doing any of that sort of stuff.
For both you and your son, music's always been a big outlet for all of you guys, and for Daniel as well. It's always been a big for you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. It was we got together and we got a band, 3-Day Grothe, Eric, Daniel and myself, and the drummer was Gavin Robinson, who's on 2SM these days in the afternoon, and ex-cricketer, and and we did
cricket.
that for about.
Oh, I'm happy. Let's talk about cricket. Don't
start. That's been one of the good things actually of this virus is there's been no cricket.
There's been no cricket.
No, I'm joking. It's a tough sport. I don't think I could handle going out there and
standing in the sun for 5 days.
Well, for that long in the sun anyway, but then getting a 120, 140 mile per hour or kilometre per hour ball coming at you.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. So, but the band will be fine once everything kicks off again. there'll be plenty of gigs.
Yeah, all that. Yeah. As I was saying,
out.
I mean, it was such fun doing it with Eric and Daniel for those years, and then they disbanded and went and did their own thing and played their own music with Shinobi, and they did well with all that sort of stuff. And then the current lineup with the band I have now has been there for about 12 or 15 years now.
Yeah.
So it's been a lot of fun. And the boys love the music. They've all got guitars and they just it's a relaxing thing, and they love to record and do all sorts of things. So that's
and they're both very talented at it. They're just both naturals sort of at it. I mean, Eric when you write some of his songs and Boogs on his bass is just such a groover. Do you know what I mean? It's just really it's great to watch. So it's I guess it's one of those things that's been as part of the family for the whole time for a long time.
It has, yeah. I got a guitar when I was 10 for Christmas, and it came out of nowhere. My mum and dad just bought me a Christmas present, a guitar, and they must have obviously known I was into music, but I can't remember before I was 10 that I used to listen to music on the radio and all that sort of stuff, and the guitar changed my life in that sense. I just loved it, and it grew from there. And then as Eric and Daniel were born, it just sort of was a natural filter through to their life as well.
Yeah, awesome. That's great. So, how's it working with you now? Like, obviously, footy's off TV, coming back as soon as possible, as soon as they make the announcement, all that sort of stuff. So, do you have any ideas on how it's sort of going to change the game? Do you think it'll change the game in any way? This whole COVID thing, or?
Well, there's been a couple of changes. There's only one ref now that's going to be refereeing the game. So they've jumped from 2 to 1 now. So there's that pause in the game with the virus has created some decisions. So there's a couple other little rule changes that I haven't looked up properly yet. But generally the game will be the same, but it won't be in that sense. There won't be anyone watching the game in regards to being live, but plenty of people watching it on TV, obviously. But once the restrictions are lifted, they'll get crowds in again, and we'll be all back to normal. But it's been a strange time, and I think when the rugby league gets up and running, it'll be interesting to see if the other codes will get up and running as well. Yeah,
it's going to be interesting. It's going to be an interesting next couple of months to see how this all plays out and how it all happens for all of us. I guess we're all trying to do different things, just like I'm doing the podcast. You've got your own stuff going on, and it's just really interesting to see how people have been adapting and pivoting, and it's have to do it. I think it's really important.
Amongst all the negativity, there's been some positive stuff that's come out of this strange times that we live in with the virus and so forth. And I think people have become, as a species, I think we've come together closer. Worked really hard together to make sure everything's all right. I can only speak for what's happening in Australia. It's been compared to Europe and all that, but I think there's been some positive things in the sense of as a human race, it's really made us think about certain things and what's important and what's not.
100%. Yeah, I agree with that. I think there's been a lot of positive change. Maybe some negative change in whether it's relationships or people drinking too much and all that sort of stuff and finding out who they are. So I think there's been a lot of self-development for people. But I think it's been a growing exercise for most people, regardless of whether it's been negative or positive. It's still a growing exercise, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, is there anything else that you sort of wanted to touch on or talk about? Did you want to give Eric some more shit, or did you? Is there anything that you wanted to talk about back in the old days about footy, or anything you wanted to tell para fans about, or anyone that's listening? I don't know. You know me, I don't know footy, so I don't know what they're interested in listening about.
No, not really. I think everyone's just waiting with bated breath to watch the game again. Yeah. To watch it live and to go there and watch it, and I think generally the life experience is everyone wants to be live again, in that sense that they're, and it's funny. It's funny. If you're driving on the road, a few weeks ago and just going to the shops and driving in the car and all that sort of stuff, you wouldn't think there was a restrictions or anything. There's so many cars on the road. Yeah, it's like a normal
normal
like
day.
yesterday, just driving on Hume Highway where I live here. It was just like it was a busy day, and you think, is there a virus? Is there restrictions? Is there
Yeah, what's
anything
going on?
happening out there?
Yeah.
The world looks pretty normal, but
Yeah.
those that are really affected by it, in the sense where for us the marquee, we can't do the
Do what
marquee
you do.
thing and
That's
all that
right.
sort of stuff. Those people in those industries and that sort of thing, where people had to get together, where things online and all that sort of stuff stayed or got even busier, online shopping and all that sort of stuff. So for some people it's changed a lot, and a lot of other people it hasn't really changed.
Yeah, that's true. So for anyone that's listening, obviously your nickname's the Guru. What's the advice that you have to leave them with? No pressure. No pressure.
The advice,
because the pubs are going to open soon and everything's going to start opening, and I just, who knows what's going to happen, but I just want to hear what words of wisdom you have, because you always have something.
The
pressure's on.
It is. Wisdom. Yeah. No, look, the only wisdom I would have is that in these times, I think there's, like, for instance, I'm doing a Google AdWord course, and I wouldn't have done it if this didn't happen.
Yeah,
I mean, I think a lot of people have grown and as you were saying before, a lot of people have had to become different in the way they look at things, the way they do things. So this, and part of the positive thing that's come out of this, is that people have had to do other things, and it's created that their world changed a little bit, but for the better, in doing things that they wouldn't have done normally and stuff like that. So
that's right.
I think
they found the time.
Words of wisdom: embrace that, and look at it as such a learning opportunity that when or if it does happen again, we know what to look, and
we know we've got stuff that we can work with, and there's always things to do, and it's a growing experience for everybody, isn't it? Really.
That's what you're saying, growing experience. That's exactly right. It's been an experience for everyone, and a lot of people have grown from it for that reason. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. Thank you very much for jumping on and having a chat. I know you're always busy doing stuff, so I appreciate your time, and come down to Shahaba Pub and have a beer with me and Ronnie when you get a chance.
Absolutely, mate. As soon as the restrictions are lifted, mate, I'll be there, and I'll buy us both a beer, mate. Thank you very much, mate. And great job you're doing. Thanks, Pete.
All right, mate. I appreciate it. All the best, mate.
Good on you, mate. Cheers.
Take care. See ya.
Bye, mate.